Okay, so I'm live. Dr. William James here speaking. Um, I wanted to speak to the parents out there about the education system. Really, you're just making a big mistake if you are allowing the education system to, um, educate your children. Whether your child is in a public school, they're in a private school, they're in a charter school, whether your kid is homeschooled, however it's going. If you're not the one directly educating your child, you need to make sure that you're staying on top of that. One, every time, every day that your child comes home from school, you should be asking them, what did they learn that day? Who did you learn about? What did you learn? Your child should be able to tell you what they learned. You should be reviewing the materials that are given to them and reviewing the materials to make sure that things make sense because the curriculum is biased. There's all types of like nonsense that kids learn, and then you need to make sure that you follow up with that and you make sure that they're properly edified. For example, they have packets like this in schools. It's about James Madison, one of the founding fathers, the fourth president of the United States of America, or recognizes that. That article just paints James Madison in a positive light. Has no mentions to him being a slave owner, has no mentions of him being, a bad person. It just paints him in a positive light. So if my child were to bring something like that home, first thing I would do is review it, go over it with him, talk about the facts that are positive and the facts that are negative. I will make sure that my child is informed of how bad a person James Madison was and how bad a person, any person who owned slaves, they're a bad person. Like there's no way to paint it and try to spin it as if there's some positive person. You own slaves, you supported slavery, you're a negative person. So this is just one of the reasons why we need to be following up with things. You need to make sure your child is properly edified. In order to do that, you need to be properly edified. So there's a lot of parents out there who just don't read enough, don't do enough research of different content areas. And, I don't expect all parents to know uh, everything that their child is learning. It's a little bit different with math, it's a little bit different with uh, science, but you do want to make sure your child is learning about different mathematicians. You do want to make sure your child is learning about different scientists who look like them, mathematicians who look like them, if that comes about. But more importantly, when it comes to like literature and when it comes to history, you definitely need to be on top of that and make sure that you monitor what your child is learning um, and from what position is being told. There's a lot of textbooks. Um, they present the transatlantic slave trade as if it was some great migration. You definitely need to be on top of that and making sure that your child knows the truth as to what that was. So, another thing, parents, you need to be making sure if your child is in um, public school, private school, if they go to a school, you need to make sure you're in constant contact with all of your child's teachers. It is not the job of the teacher to seek you out um, to see uh, how your child is progressing. Yes, they are going to do that. That's a part of their duty to do that sometimes. But depending on the type of school it is, a teacher could have up to 150, 200 students. You don't expect, um, a teacher to give like weekly or daily or monthly updates for 200 kids. So someone is going to be lacking if, you know, that is what the teacher is trying to do. It's just not possible. So you should take it upon yourself to be one of those parents who has your child's teachers' emails, phone numbers. You're constantly contacting them, tracking their grades, tracking their progress, monitoring, what's being done. Especially if you have a child who has some type of disability or they have a IEP, you need to be following up with that, seeing what changes can be made to make sure that your child is improving their reading comprehension, their literacy skills, their writing skills, because it's extremely important um, in overall academics that they progress in these areas. I see it all the time where they're slowly progressing in like reading comprehension and writing skills, and parents don't notice until it's too late. Then the child is held back, they lose a year, and that can deplete a child. That can cause a child to look at education differently, not want to learn. And then once that happens, that's when you get kids who drop out, and it's usually downhill from there. So you need to be on top of your child's education, what they're learning, who they're learning from. You need to get to know the teachers who are edifying your child. You need to try to get to know them as much as you can, get to know their personal views, where they're from, why they're an educator. You need to get to try to know as much as you can. And you need to be present in your child's life. You need to be visible. You need to be seen in the school as much as you can. If it's just one parent, I understand how you can be busy, but you need to make yourself known. All right. Children are more successful when there is a clear line of communication between the teacher and parents or guardians. So that's just one thing that I wanted to share real quickly. Um, I'll address this more in depth later with other videos, but that is something that you need to stay on top of if you want to see your child be successful academically. Um, you also need to look into the requirements and look as to what your child needs and what they do not need. State exam. It is not mandatory that your child takes a lot of these state exams. If your child suffers from test anxiety and they're a great student, but they just don't do well with tests, and then don't have your child take the state exam. You can sit with your child, you can monitor their progress, you can see how they comprehend the text when you read with them. You can see how well they articulate themselves verbally and on paper. Um, Something that is not done enough. There are too many parents who gift their child. They buy them all kinds of sneakers, all kinds of toys, all kinds of video games, but they are not reading with their child. They're not making sure the child is reading. They're not making sure the child is writing. They're not making sure the child is studying vocabulary words, doing research on different historians and different aspects of history. You need to make sure that you are investing in your child's education. You need to make sure that you're making sure that they do these things um, and value, knowledge at an early age rather than wait until later. I see too many kids who are invested in Fortnite, and they can sit down and they can articulate the video game Fortnite to you, but they can't read a passage or a paragraph and tell you what is taking place in this paragraph. I know several kids who can name about 30 NBA players, but they can't sit down and read a simple passage and tell me what it was about. And that represents a significant problem of what is and what is not being done. So we just need good parenting. It all starts at home. I see a lot of kids in my line of work who just need proper guidance, and they'll be headed down the right track, because there are some educators who are trying to properly edify your kids and make sure that they have the tools to be successful in life. Um, but they just don't have the help of the parents. So I'll be uploading another video when I get the chance, but I just wanted to put this out there really quickly, because it sounds like common sense, but there are just so many parents who don't do what they need to do. So share this video. If you know any parents who You need to see it, share it, and let me know what you think.